Well, we're continuing in the Dvar Malchut, the speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in the end of 1991, Tavshin Nun Beit. And in it, the Rebbe was trying to make us realize and live with the fact that Moshiach is imminent. In any second, Moshiach is supposed to change the whole world, bring what's called Geula, the redemption of the Jews. That's what Moshiach is supposed to do. And again, just to remind everybody, just so that we to put this thing in the proper perspective, the purpose of the creation of the world is Mashiach. The purpose of the Jewish people is to bring Mashiach. What Abraham, Isaac, Jacob wanted to do was make a world that Mashiach is going to make, the Geula, that everything in the world should be attached in a revealed way to the Creator. The Creator is creating everything. Our very existence depends totally on the Creator, and the purpose that God created us is to reveal that fact that the Creator is creating us and that He cares about us and that there's a purpose to life and that there's a reason why we're alive, and we can fulfill this purpose only through the Torah. For the non-Jews, it's the 7 Noahide commandments, but that's also the Torah for them. It's the part of the Torah which is relevant to them. Mashiach. So this big change has to occur. The change has to occur in the world. There won't be any more lies. There won't be any more deceit in the world. There won't be any more depression, no more aggression, deception, frustration, all the negative things in the world, addictions, all these things, the world will get along fine without those things, right? If there's not one addict in the world, no one would miss anything. The world would be a tremendously beneficial, wonderful place. And even the people that provide all these drugs and things like that, they'll find a good job. They won't, instead of making everybody miserable in the world and getting this dirty money that there's no blessing in it anyway. So the world will be good, but it has to happen, and it has to happen soon, but it's not happening. So the Rebbe said, any second now it's going to happen, and we can see the signs. What's the signs? That the world, everyone in the world, people are learning Torah. Jews are learning Torah. Jews are coming back to Judaism. Jews are coming back to Torah and to the commandments. And despite all the efforts to dissuade Jews from doing this, but nevertheless, the fact is a lot of Jews are coming back to Judaism. And especially, says the Rebbe, the main place we can see it, and we can see it clearly and obviously and drastically, is in France. That France, in the time of the first Rebbe of Chabad, was the ultimate, opposer to God. The ultimate place where God was openly opposed was France. I guess now you have to say it's Israel. You have these powered parties, I guess like half of the country. They have these parties that they're, just now in Israel, the religious parties, they won the election. So the non-religious parties, the ones who, anyway, the non-religious parties, it's just vituperous, whatever it is. It's just terrible. Some of the things that they're saying, I myself didn't believe it. I've been living here for 45 years. To hear this officially stated, in such an obvious, terrible, way against religious Jews and against the Torah, against Judaism. At no other country in the world you could say things like that, like they say over here. It's really quite amazing. In any case, the Rebbe is working on it. We see in Israel more and more and more people are becoming observant Jews, and in the most natural ways. Now you go into banks, you go into the the garage to fix your car. You got dentists and doctors and lawyers. You see that these people, they're religious. You see that there's 20% of them are religious, whatever, and then in the most natural, normal way. We're not talking about they put on black garments and white stockings and they don't want to talk to you. There are people like that. Of course, there are people like that, but they're not increasing, except for, naturally they're having children, but they're not turning from not religious to religious. But France is a big difference, because France, in the time of the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, there was almost no religious Judaism there in France. There was like in the time of Rashi or whatever, that was like 900 years ago. But since then, especially in the time of the Alter Rebbe, 250 years ago, that was like the center of free thinking and and humanism and all these other ideas. France. And intermarriage was like, that was the norm in France. And now it's tremendously different, and especially because of the work of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and that's where we got up to now. 1 second. Where do we get to go? This all came from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he, unlike the other Rebbes before him, didn't live in Russia all of his life. All the Rebbes of Chabad lived in Russia their whole life. And briefly, especially the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, he made brief visits to France. Brief visits for France. But that was like more than 100 years ago. 150 years ago. But by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, let me just see here. 1 second, let me just get this. Yes, okay. But by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, there was a whole novelty in regard to the leaders before him, that he actually moved from Russia and then he went to these different countries. He was 10 years, he lived in Poland and Latvia. And then the last 10 years of his life, he lived in America. So we see that he moved around. That was a whole new thing. He brought Chabad into places that had never been before. He brought the teachings of Chabad, the writings of Chabad. That's spreading out the Torah and spreading out Judaism and spreading out the wellsprings of Judaism all over the world. And this brought about a purification in the whole world. Okay, especially we're talking about, and this was mainly by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Yosef Yitzchak. I had a picture of him, and for some reason the picture got lost. Okay. This made even the future redemption even closer. That then was the completion of the Buddha. Was this? Especially in France. Okay, here, this is what we got up to. In a general way, even more. The beginning of this, it started, yes, by the Rebbe Marash, by the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, Rebbe Shmuel. Like it's known that he went several times to France to do things in France. And then afterwards, even more, by the Rebbe Rashab, his son, the fifth Rebbe of Chabad. He went many times to France. In fact, there's a whole string of very, very deep Hasidic discourses, a lot of them that started from Tafresh Ayin Beis, that was from France. He was there. Some of them he wrote when he was in France. The main complete refinement of France that Judaism spread out there in our generation by means of the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, that in addition to the fact that he was in France many times, and he said there also Maimorim, Hasidic discourses, and made speeches over there, but he also sent emissaries to France, people from his own family that lived there many years, and that they did their service of learning Torah and teaching Hasidut. And he also sent, he wrote Maimers, essays of Hasidut, and wrote letters there. And there also there was prepared many things. He prepared many things to be printed afterwards, right? Many ideas of Hasidut set to be printed out in France. In general, he caused over there a purification by means of sending Hasidim there, and not that they just isolated themselves from everyone, but they mixed in to the people. They had connections with the people there, and they even adapted some of the customs. They spoke the language. Of course, everything was with the fear of God and not giving up anything of the Torah, but nevertheless, they still had made a change in France, a Bira Bofen Pinimi. and France itself, so to speak, the customs helped them to spread out Judaism. Davar asher paratz the derech, this opened up the way from the previous Rebbe. This opened up the way and gave the power to break the klippa, the evil selfishness that was in France that opposed God. The previous Rebbe did it. The true revelation of this, B'Shleimus, Nifal came after the previous Rebbe. He reached America. After the previous Rebbe reached America. When the last 10 years of the previous Rebbe's life, when he was in America, then France really started to become refined as far as Judaism and letting God into the picture. The Yesod Sham B'Tzarfat, there was Yeshiva Tomchei Tamimim, that there was founded a yeshiva of Chabad there and other institutions. This is after the Rebbe came. And from these yeshivas, there came people, French people that had been born in France, and they made even more institutions. And they spread out Torah and Judaism in general, and Torah, Chassidut especially, the teachings of Chassidut. Like we see clearly, Ubafran, especially in the last years, the Rebbe is saying now, at the Hatzlacha, we can see now the fruits of the previous Rebbe's work, the tremendous success, and in quantity and in quality from everything that the previous Rebbe did, spreading Judaism out in France and in other countries also, in a way that it's continuing to this very day and increasing. In a way that what the Nasi Toreno gave the power to draw holiness even in the lowest physical aspects of the world. It had to be drawn from the Rebbe. And he gave the power that in this place it could be a source of learning Torah, until the degree that they even make big yeshivas over there, just like it was in Lubavitcher back in Russia in the time of the second Rebbe of Chabad, as though you were back in learning Torah in Chassidut, in the place where Chassidut was originated, right in Lubavitch. And then afterwards, they didn't need anymore the encouragement and the inspiration of the Rebbe. The inspiration came from them themselves, because it's as though the yeshivas over there became like itself, as though the Rebbe himself. This is a parenthetical statement. There's a mimer written by the Rebbe about the lights of Hanukkah. There's a commandment in the lights of Hanukkah to light the Hanukkah lights outside. Some people do it. In Chabad, they don't do it. According to Kabbalah, there's a reason not to do it. But in any case, there is definitely a commandment to put the lights of Hanukkah outside in the street. And the Rebbe asked the question, why put them out on the street? What's the point of putting them on the street? Is because the lights of Hanukkah represent a light of God, represent an aspect of God that shines everywhere equally. And we want to show this, that it shines outside just like an inside. Inside and outside shines everywhere equally. So the Rebbe said, one second, if it shines everywhere equally, then why do you have to put the actual light, the candle, outside? We're talking about godly light. We can't see it anyway. Light the candles in the house, and it'll shine everywhere equally. So he says, no, the point of the lights of Hanukkah is to show that not that when you light the lights of Hanukkah in your house, that reveals godliness everywhere, but that really the source is from your house, but it lights everywhere. No, it's to show that the world itself will become a source of the light of God. The world itself will cry out and will announce that there's a creator. And that's the same thing the Rebbe wants to say here. Up until the previous Rebbe, in order to make godliness, Torah, commandments, Judaism revealed in France, they had to come from the Rebbe. But the Rebbe made it to such a degree that the people over there became so influenced and so certain and so connected to their own soul, to God, and the godliness of their own soul, that they themselves became a source. The outside itself started shining. It says, in addition, there's a lot of books that are printed in France. So now it becomes a source for Torah and the commandments from France itself. It doesn't have to have inspiration from outside. Kamor, like I said before, what we do now, this is a revelation and the fruits of the work of the previous Rebbe. He was the one who planted the seeds in France and these other places, that now it grows out and we can see the results. That when the previous Rebbe, he was the leader of the generation up until 1950, and like you say, the leader, he's everything, the Nasi. He's the leader, he's the king of our generation, as that's everything, as he gave the ability, the power, the potential, and the power that in these places, they themselves could be independent. They would be independent sources of godliness, to all the people of the world, in order to bring a refinement in the whole entire world, even the lowest places, even to the lowest places, not that they would be affected by godliness, but they would be a source of godliness themselves. The whole world transforms to be something like a holy temple. There'll still be a holy temple, of course, but Moshiach will make it that there will be, of course, there'll be a holy temple, but only because God says that there has to be. We'll do what God says. But as far as revealing godliness, eventually the whole world will reveal godliness. Everyone will automatically want to do Torah and the commandments. It says the Mashiach will show that all the other religions are wrong. They were just wrong. They're just mistakes. So everyone will worship the Creator according to the Creator's standards, but they'll do it, it'll come from themselves. It won't have to be constantly inspired by others. And I mean, it's a good thing everyone should inspire everybody else. And everyone will receive from everybody else. But nevertheless, everyone will be a source in themselves. Everyone will feel that God is creating me, and I personally have something godly to contribute to the whole world. The Yeshlom, we can say the Dvar there, that this idea that France itself has become a place which is a source of Torah and commandments, and especially in these two topics we said about refining the world, Birur Atachton, refining the lower world in a way that remains lower world, and number two, revealing the essence of the lower world, revealing the essence of this world, so the world itself shines. That it becomes one with the source. The world, so to speak, becomes like a holy temple. This is also hinted at in the word Sarfat, France. Sarfat is from the language of Tziruf. Sarfat means from Tziruf. Tziruf means like refining or joining. Shemavateh inyan shel Tziruf or birur v'zichuch. In a tzoref is a person like refines gold or silver. It's called a tzoref. Tziruf also means to join together. Tzarfat means to refine and to purify. Kivan shenemar b'nogea legula, since it says that in the future redemption, it says yizboru v'yislavnu v'yitzarfu rabim. It says that many will be. This is a sentence in Daniel, right? Let's see what it says. Daniel, right? Daniel 12 says everything will become clear in the future redemption. Clear is what's the idea of being clear? Is France. France will make everything clear. How can that be? France was the biggest source of confusion as far as godliness was concerned in the whole world. Right? You had these terrible philosophers and these terrible, thinkers that said you just have to do whatever you want to, and then man is the measure of all things, etc. Says no, that's what has to be purified. When that is purified, and then it's al derech tzichzuch v'tzachos. Maybe we can say that this is Tzarfat is the same gematria, the numerical value of 770. 770 is the address of the Rebbe's headquarters in New York. 770, and there was, of course, that was bought by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Shleimus Amizpah, the completion of the number 7. Why? Because you have 7 times 7, and you have 7 times 10, and 7 times 100. You will see. 70, and how each one is included every 7, how each one develops into 100. 700 and 7 tens. Shneim together, and you put both of them together. 7 times 100, 7 times 10. And we can say that this is also hinted at that in Shel Medinot Hallelu, that in these countries that we're talking about, France, America, it's already finished the refinement of the world that was created in the 7 days of creation and all of the details. And even more. Yeah, okay. And even more. The number 770, this is the number, the address of the house where the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe lived. That in it he lived the last 10 years of his life, when he was in this physical world in America. And America is on the other side of the globe where the Torah was given, the other side of the globe from Israel. Chetzi Kadura Tachton. And we can say Shazam Rames, this is hinted at. And another thing, which is even higher, in the refinement of the world. In addition to what we said, that France was refined, that this is made, Kamo Etzem 770 Atzmo, that France is the Gematria 770, that France becomes like 770, the house of the previous Rebbe, the place, the source of the spreading out of Judaism and of Hasidut in the whole world, as France is not just affected by it, but France is the numerical value of 770, that it becomes like 770. It becomes itself a source of illuminating the world. The Yesh Lo Sifim we can add on, She'inyan said that this we can find especially in what it says, Halach Ledni Musa. It says that when you come to a country, you should as much as possible go according to the customs of that country, as long as it doesn't detract in any way from Torah and the commandments. But everywhere that it's possible is you should go in the customs of that country. Menatzlim et tachunot. You have to utilize the nature and the customs of that place for good. Legalot et etzem, to reveal the essence in that place in a way shemurgash, that it's felt that this place becomes what we call independent. But call in yani Torah of mitzvahs, it becomes an independent source for Torah and the commandments. It doesn't have to be inspired from outside. Just like we say that a person, one way, how do we know that a person is created in the image of God? What does it mean we're created in the image of God? That we feel exactly how God feels. God feels, I am the true existence. I'm the king of the world. I am first, I am last. There's nothing except for me. We feel exactly the same thing. I'm a true existence. Nothing created me. I am the king of the world. I can do whatever I want to, until the world sometimes, reality hits you in the face that you're not. But everybody feels inside, it would be nice if I was, Napoleon or whatever, I could rule over the whole world. Because every human being, because they come from God and they're made in the image of God, so we feel like God. What does it mean? That I'm the source, I can do what I want to, and there's nothing before me. That's the way God wanted it, created the world. That can be used for evil. That's what France did, right? Trust yourself, think about, feel yourself, whatever you feel, that's what's right. Whatever you want, that's good. Do anything that comes into your mind, anything that gives you pleasure, anything, whatever it is. You can do it. Of course, there's certain laws. You can't hurt other people. Okay, so they make laws in order to do that. But the main thing is that you are the source of everything. You're the king, you're God, you write your own Bible, you do whatever you want to. That's France. The opposite is when you feel godliness, then you feel also the same thing. You feel an independent source. But independent source for what? For learning Torah, for inspiring other people to do what God says in the Torah, to do, other Jews should do the commandments. Yesh Lomar, we can say that one depends on the other. In order that you can really affect the physical world, and that's why we're here, is therefore we have to have the power of what's called independence. We have to be a source ourselves. Mitzad bechinas giluyim shaba yesh chiluk bein elyon letachton. If we're talking about abilities, qualities, intelligence, how do you say, success, then there's a difference between God and us. Then we can draw down godliness in a place, but only in a certain place which is according to our abilities and our, tendency for success and our intelligence. But if we're attached to the essence of God, which is above up and down, then it's possible to refine the lowest possible levels, which are not in our ability to do. But suddenly we become, if we're attached to God enough, then we have the ability to do things, to refine things that are not in our ability, because we're not working with our ability anymore. Until even more, Lahamshich Sham, at the Etzam Atzma, we can draw down the essence of God there, like I said, with the lights of Hanukkah, that the world itself shines out. Only by means of this physical world and the lowest aspects of this physical world, only there can be revealed the essence. So France, because it was such a big enemy to godliness and such a big enemy to Judaism and Torah, specifically from there can come the highest revelations. That it pulled a birur b'kol olam, that this from there can come, the whole world can be refined. How is this going to happen? We'll learn about this, God willing, tomorrow with Moshiach. Now let's learn the Dvar Malchut. I think